2 years ago, I couldn't even get a call back for a junior developer job. Today, I'm making well over 6 figures freelancing for a professional sports team. Here's how I did it. It all started on New Year's Day. I was sitting in my college apartment as a senior thinking, graduation's only a few months away. I need to start applying for jobs. That's when I decided, why not try freelancing? So I created an account on Upwork. I filled out my profile and used up all my free connects applying for jobs. And nothing. Not a single response. I didn't really think much of it as I was already grinding out leak code questions and sending in job applications thinking the traditional 9 to 5 would be better anyways. So I forgot about it and I focused on getting the 9 to 5 developer role. But as many of you know, the job market is terrible, so I wasn't even having much luck with that either. 3 months later, I got an email from Upwork saying that they were going to shut down my account due to inactivity. I didn't really care because I figured freelancing just wasn't for me. But then, the very next day, completely out of nowhere, a client reached out for me, asking for an interview. I couldn't believe it. I quickly accepted his invitation and set up a call as eager to get any experience I could. During this call, I was honest. I asked, I'm curious, why'd you reach out to me? I don't even have any experience on Upwork. He then told me something that changed the way I thought about freelancing forever. He said that he had scrolled through hundreds of profiles, and mine stood out because of my vast portfolio of projects. You see, I had made sure to add any and every side project I had ever worked on to demonstrate my skills. This included my personal website, a website I made for my mom, projects I created in school, and projects that I built just for fun. And to him, that was all the social proof he needed to believe that I could actually deliver. That's when I learned my first big lesson in freelancing. Your portfolio is more important than your profile. And that insight led me to my very first gig, building a simple website for his business for $30 an hour. Now, my first client was more than just a random business owner. He was actually a freelancer himself, contracting for a larger corporation. And after I'd completed his website, he liked me so much that he asked if I wanted to join his team help building Microsoft Teams apps. I eagerly accepted as I wanted to get as much experience as I possibly could. The tech stack I decided to use was React, as I was already learning it and wanted to try it out in a professional environment. The project was a ton of fun, as I was finally applying the skills I had learned in school into a real-world environment. But expanding my technical skills wasn't the only thing I learned in this contract. Since my client was a seasoned freelancer, he taught me some important lessons in freelancing. He actually taught me my second big lesson in freelancing. Landing a contract is a numbers game. You have to apply to a ton of gigs, even if it costs you hundreds of dollars worth of connects. And that's a mistake I made on New Year's Day, a mistake that almost cost me my whole Upwork career. You see, I got lucky with my client reaching out to me, but unfortunately, most developers never get that opportunity. If you want to land a contract on Upwork, especially in the beginning, you gotta be willing to spend a couple $100 applying for gigs. Think about it like investing. If you wanna make money, you gotta spend it first. That idea completely reframed freelancing for me. So when that first contract started winding down, I raised my rate, took the money I'd earned, and poured it back into applying to dozens and eventually hundreds of contracts. And then came my next big break. I landed a $50 an hour contract. I couldn't believe it when I first got the offer. I began to realize that Upwork might actually be the best way to start my career. The work was straightforward, fixing Tailwind styling in a React app. At first I thought, okay, this is just updating styling. But the truth was, this contract taught me just as much about professional workflows as it did about Tailwind. The team used Jira, they had tickets, there were pull requests. This was my first exposure to a real developer environment. I wasn't just a small solo dev working on a small Microsoft Teams app. I was part of a team of engineers building an enterprise level application. And on the technical side, I went from being okay at Tailwind to being really good with it. I learned how to move components properly using Tailwind and how to structure a React project properly. I really enjoyed this contract as the project was almost done and I was just helping add the finishing touches to it. Because the project was nearly completed, the work wasn't always full time. So I decided to fill in the gaps with smaller gigs. $100 here, $200 here, some design tweaks, bug fixes, performance optimizations. It didn't just add to my income, it built up my review history. Clients started leaving positive feedback and 5 stars on my profile, and suddenly my profile started to look a lot more legitimate. By the time that contract had ended, I had learned my third big lesson. It's not enough to be a good programmer. You have to show that you're a real human being. You see, clients don't just hire skills, they hire people they can trust to communicate and solve their problems. So I decided to completely overhaul my profile. I first found all the top earners on Upwork to learn what made them successful. And the thing I noticed was that they all had a short YouTube video introducing themselves and explaining what they do. I then noticed that most developers on the platform actually don't have a YouTube video, but as a result, they don't have much success on the platform either. This made sense to me because if I was a client, I'd rather interview someone who I can get to know a little bit in a video rather than a profile that's basically just a resume. So I created a short YouTube video introducing myself. I explained my skills and literally just did it to put a face to the name. I then added some more side projects. I polished up my portfolio and I wrote proposals that felt personal to each listing. And it worked. Within weeks, I was able to raise my rate up to $70 an hour, and I landed a contract with a mid-sized shipping company at that rate. This was a big contract for me as it was the first time I was on track to make well over $100,000. I remember when I got the job, I was so excited because I was on track to make a salary I thought would have taken me years to achieve. At that time, I had only graduated college 6 months ago. And that's the amazing thing about freelancing. You can increase your rate at the end of each contract, meaning you can exponentially increase your income compared to working just a traditional 9 to 5. If you think about it, in a traditional role, you'll work there for 2 to 3 years before switching companies to get a salary increase. But in contracting, you'll work there for about 3 to 6 months before switching contracts, meaning you can increase your income up to 4 times in 1 year. Now, this client wanted me to build a logistics portal for a shipping company. So not only was this a big win for my compensation, but it was a big opportunity to expand my technical skills. It actually introduced me to my favorite React framework, Next.js. This was by far the biggest contract I'd worked on up to this point, and my client had a lot of plans and a lot of features he wanted implemented. But there was a catch. You see, my client never hired a project manager, so there wasn't a clear roadmap to an MVP. My client kept on requesting to add new features, and every time we were close to the finish line, he would just add on one more feature. This caused some high turnover in the freelancers that he had hired. Some would show up, push a couple commits, then they just vanish. And after about 6 months had passed and the stress really started to build up, I started asking myself, is this work environment really worth it? Yes, the money was good and I had finally crossed into 6 figures, but the stress and lack of direction made me realize another lesson. Just because a contract pays well doesn't mean it's the right contract. So I made the tough call to move on. Now, luckily, around that time, I was connected with an accounting company that needed an internal system built. After a couple of interviews, I was back in the saddle, this time at $80 an hour, which to me felt surreal. I remember thinking, I'm charging more than some full-time senior developers make. But what made it special wasn't just the pay, it was the role itself. This client had hired a full-time employee to be the CTO and the backend engineer. And luckily, the guy he hired had some experience managing projects. So this contract had a lot more structure and was a lot more similar to my second contract because they had a proper ticketing system. They brought me on to build the front end and the internal business tools they were making. Since I was the only guy working on the entirety of the front end, I began to feel less like a developer and more like a consultant. This client wasn't just paying for my hands on the keyboard. They were paying for my judgment and my experience to make proper UI and UX decisions. That mindset shift was huge. And it was just another step to give me the confidence I needed to go after something even bigger. Now, after I finished up that contract with the accounting company, I came across an opportunity I thought would never exist on Upwork. An opportunity I thought I'd never be able to get. A contract with a professional sports team. To be completely honest, I don't even remember applying for the job. By that point, I was so used to sending out so many proposals, I wasn't even looking at who the client was. I just hit apply, move on, and wait to see if they message me back. What I do remember is where I was when they accepted my application. I was out in my backyard, just swinging in my hammock. And that's when I got the notification from Upwork on my phone. When I opened it and saw the company name, my eyes got wide. I couldn't believe it. I typed the name into Google just to confirm it was who I really thought it was. And sure enough, it was the real professional sports team. I messaged back right away saying I was available anytime for a call and was luckily able to schedule one for the next day. I can still remember sitting down for that call. I mean, my hands were literally sweating on the keyboard. I kept thinking, don't blow this, just be yourself. But to my surprise, the interview wasn't intimidating at all. They weren't grilling me on algorithm questions or asking me to whiteboard code. No, they just wanted to know if I could solve their problem. Could I help them build and improve their internal tools? And it felt like everything I had worked on led up to that exact moment. I began to explain the systems I built for the accounting company, the dashboards I built for the logistics portal, all the apps that I used React, Next.js, and Tailwind. Even the smaller gigs gave me something to talk about. All those random projects suddenly felt like they were stepping stones leading to this exact moment. And that's when they said the words I'll never forget. We'd like to bring you on. When I got that contract offer, I had to read it twice. A professional sports team. Me, a kid who just a couple years earlier couldn't even get a call back for a junior dev role. And that first week on the job, I mean, it was surreal. I'd log into the meetings and see the team's branding everywhere. I'd get emails with the official logo and the signature. Felt like I had stepped into an entirely new world, one I never imagined I'd be a part of when I first clicked the sign up button on Upwork. It wasn't just about programming anymore. It was about professionalism, communication, and delivering at a level where your mistakes have real consequences. And on top of all of that, I was getting paid more than I ever thought possible. So there's my freelancing journey. Looking back on it, it's wild to think how each contract built on the last. The $30 website taught me the value of a portfolio. The $50 styling gig taught me workflows and communication and taught me the fundamentals of React. The $70 logistics contract taught me how to build an Next.js and how to know when it's time to leave a contract. The $80 internal accounting system taught me ownership and architecture of front-end development. And then finally, the sports team contract showed me that freelancing can take you places you never thought possible. You see, it wasn't always easy. There were times that I doubted myself, times where I stared at an empty Upwork inbox wondering if I'd never get another gig, times when contracts suddenly ended and I felt like I was starting all over. But every step was worth it. Freelancing has taught me more than any traditional role ever could, not just technically, but personally. I've learned how to sell myself, communicate clearly, adapt to new technologies on the fly, and most importantly, build a career on my own terms. So if you clicked on this video thinking about giving freelancing a shot, here's my advice to you. Number one, don't underestimate your side projects. They can get you hired. Add as many projects to your portfolio as you possibly can. Number two, market yourself like a human. Clients want to work with people, not resumes. Make sure to add a video in your Upwork profile and study what the top freelancers in your industry are doing and do the same. Number three, apply to more gigs than you think you need to. This is by far the most important one. I really believe that 99% of freelancers fail because they don't do this. You need to keep applying, even if it feels like you're wasting your money, because all you need to do is land one contract and you can make all that money back in a week. So that's my story. I hope it inspires you to give freelancing a shot, whether you're considering it full-time or just as a way to earn some extra income. Right now, the tech job market for developers is tough. Trust me, I know, I've been there. But here's a little secret. The freelancing market is the exact opposite. There are tons of opportunities because many companies don't want to hire full-time employees anymore. Instead, they're looking for contractors to complete specific tasks. Use this to your advantage. Build up your skills, grow your income, and take control of your career. And if you stick with it, freelancing can change your life the way it's changed mine. Thank you for watching this video. If you like it, be sure to give it a like and feel free to ask any questions you may have in the comments below. And with that, I'll see you in the next video.